Time for another quick look at the Premier League title, UEFA qualification and safety races going into game week 17. If you're playing Fantasy Premier or in almost any sports league really, and want to get all sorts of geeky data on it, check out the PlayoffComputer app at the Play Store. It is what is being used here for the calculations. On to the title and UEFA races. Starting with Liverpool, of course. They tied Fulham, which meant their lead over Chelsea has gotten a little slim. Keep in mind, though, they do have one unplayed game to make up. At 36 points, they have a roughly 37% mathematical chance to get the title, and about 4 in 5 for the UEFA. As we are approaching the midpoint of the season, the projections are still haphazard, rough guesses by the computer. Current estimate is near 80 for the title, and that seemingly low number is partially based on part of the formulas that see that so far there hasn't been a group of teams completely running away with things. Relatively speaking, everybody is beating each other up to some extent. As for UEFA, mid-60s is the latest dart throw. Liverpool with perhaps a tough match up next against the Spurs before a perhaps easier one against Leicester. Next up is Chelsea, who beat Brentford to continue gaining on Liverpool. Now about a 1 in 4 chance for the title and 7 in 10 for UEFA. They get a couple games against the lower half of the table, Everton and Ipswich, sandwiched around Fulham to close out the first half of the season. Arsenal with another disappointing tie, the latest against Everton, keeping them 6 points down, and their dwindling mathematical odds for the title are now 10%, with about a 50-50 shot for top 4. They will get a couple more chances at disappointment with supposedly winnable matches against Crystal Palace and Ipswich next. Nottingham Forest, who was the consensus pick by the experts to finish 14th, is instead number 4 on the table after beating Aston Villa. About 1 in 3 chances for UEFA. Have a couple games next with Brentford and the Spurs. Manchester City is doing the opposite of Nottingham. Lost to United to fall to 5th place instead of being on top as they were forecast. Now about 3 in 10 to make UEFA, has Aston Villa this week before closing out the first half against some perhaps winnable games against Everton and Leicester. Bournemouth is another team nowhere near where the experts thought they would be. Tied West Ham, which did slightly mar their hot streak. About 1 in 5 for UEFA. Finish out the first half with Manchester United, Crystal Palace, and Fulham. Aston Villa lost to Nottingham Forest, a drop a spot at 25 points. That is about 50-1 mathematical odds for the title and 5-1 for UEFA. They have a few challenges to finish the first half of the season: Manchester City, Newcastle, and Brighton. Fulham with the tie against Liverpool still hanging around with the big boys. Decent chances for UEFA. Has Southampton this week to try to get back on a winning track. Brighton with the loss to Crystal Palace finds themselves exactly where the experts thought they would be. A middling team with an outside chance at UEFA. West Ham coming up next. Moving on to the opposite end of the field, let's look at the race for safety. Southampton stuck on 5 points, which means their odds to reach safety are not stuck. They are plummeting. Now 1 in 5 chances. Computer's rough guess for safety is in the low 40s. but look for that to edge downward if the bottom dwellers don't start finding a few more wins. For what it is worth, they are considered realistically out of the title race. Even if they were to win every remaining game, it is unlikely they could win the title. The Wolves are stuck on 9 points, having not taken advantage of some favorable matchups. The latest loss to Ipswich. Also considered realistically out of the title race. Big battle against another win challenge team this week with Leicester to try and claw out of the hole. Ipswich, with that win against the Wolves, finds themselves no better than 50-50 to reach safety. However, they do have a tough finish to the first half of the season. Newcastle, Arsenal, and Chelsea. Leicester at 14 points has about a 2 out of 3 chance to reach safety. The match this week against the Wolves may have an oversized influence on those chances. Everton with a nice tie against Arsenal keeps them a little bit in front of the Mendoza line, but they get the honor of playing some of the top teams next: Chelsea, Manchester City, and Nottingham Forest. Crystal Palace has started to gain some momentum to try to get out of this safety discussion. Now better than 3 or 4 odds. Gets a wide range of opponent quality in the next 3: Arsenal, Bournemouth, and Southampton. That's it for now. Enjoy your day.